Okay, so now what I'm going to do is demonstrate pre-summer financials. And what I mean by pre-summer financials is the work that you do from now until the start of the summer. Is basically you're collecting deposits, and that's the revenue that's coming into the business. So I'm going to explain what happens when you book a job, where the money goes, and what things it's used to pay for. So what I'd like to start with is a job. And again, I've separated these candies into piles of 100 pieces, each to represent a percent of the job. Okay, so as you know, when we do an estimate and book a paint job for the summer, we collect what's called a deposit. This deposit can range between 10 and 15%, and I'll do a few examples of each. That's collected as a down payment when the project is scheduled. The remaining 85 to 90% would be collected upon job completion. So say I go out there and this next weekend following TSA, and I book my first paint job. And what I'm going to do is take a 15% deposit. So let me count out 15 chips here. Okay, so with these 15 pieces, that's money that I have collected, I have deposited into my bank account, and let me explain what happens from there. So College Pro, since we have cash flowed you the overhead items, again listed here, that you need to start the business, we don't charge interest on those. But what we do is require that they're paid back through what's called a booking fee. Now, a booking fee is 10% that'll be billed to your account every time that you book a job. So if you book a job for $1,000, you're going to get billed on the following Tuesday $100. Okay, that $100 is basically it's College Pro recovering what it has already spent on your overhead to put towards paying that off. We want to make sure that you break even as fast as possible. So we want to see as much of that deposit as possible go towards paying that overhead. So what we'll do at that booking fee is we'll actually take 10% of that and we'll dump it right away into the overhead jar. Now the goal with the overhead jar is that we want to get this thing broken even as fast as possible, because as soon as we're broken even on the expenses of the business, we're going to start to see money flowing into the profit jar. And that's obviously the goal in any business, is to make profit. So now, after I've done that, I still have another, I won too light on that. I still have 5% remaining if I took a 15% deposit. Okay, so what I'm going to do as the franchise owner is put that into my bank. It's not profit. I don't want to go spend that right away. But I do want to have a little bit of cushion, and I can use that money for things such as marketing, things such as gas for the vehicle, and other things that I need for the business. Okay, so now we have 90 or 85% of this job, and I'm going to set that aside. Okay, then you go out the next weekend, you have a good weekend, and you book another job. And let me count out. You're going to take a 10% deposit on this job. Booking fee is going to pull that out of your bank account and put it directly into that overhead jar. So as you can see, just by booking work, you're already starting to pay off a bit of that overhead that we have cash flow. Right? So let me set that jar or that job aside as well. Book another one. So this one I'm going to use a 15% deposit again. Okay, and again, it's up to you whether you take a 10 or 15% deposit. If you can get by on the business only taking a 10% deposit, that's what we would recommend. Because that's going to allow you to collect more money in the summer when you actually produce the work, which will help you make more profit on each job at that time. Okay, in this case, took a 15% deposit, and put 5 into the bank, and I'm going to put 10 more into the overhead jar. Let me just do a few more examples here, and then we'll move into the what happens after that. This one we'll do a 10% deposit into the overhead jar. We'll do one more 15% deposit. It's 5% into the bank. $10% into the overhead. Okay, now let me stop for a second and just explain the importance of what is happening here. So from the beginning of the business, College Pro's cash flowed some overhead items. There's other items that you've purchased as well for the business. And just by booking work and the deposits that you've collected on that work, you've already paid off a significant portion of your overhead. Okay, so the importance, we focus through GS&R, through the winter and spring, we focus on generating leads, and we focus on doing estimates, and lastly we'll focus on booking work. And the reason that we focus so hard on those three areas is because we want to make sure that you hit your weekly goals and you are bringing in the deposit revenue to be able to pay off that overhead before you reach the summer. If you look at the total amount of overhead that's cash flowed, depending on whether or not we're helping you with cold calling, it may be anywhere between $4,000 and $6,000 worth of overhead. Okay, now that needs to be paid off before you can start to save money for things such as ladders and vehicle. Okay, so if you stay on your plan and you book 50% of your business by the 9th of May, that's going to leave you with, say you're running a $100,000 business, that would be $50,000 in deposit revenue or $5,000 paid towards your overhead. Okay, now we still have some money here in the bank that we've collected. So this money in the bank, say you need to hire some cold callers. You're trying to get your estimate numbers up. You need some support on marketing. So you pay somebody to go and generate 10 leads for you. Okay, what you'll do is you'll take the money out of this jar, out of the bank, and you'll place it into the overhead jar. It's basically what's happening is cold calling and marketing is an overhead expense in your business. You're using the money that you already generated from your deposits to pay for that. Okay? Let's say you need to go and fill up the truck with gas to get to the area to do estimates. Take the money out of the bank and put it into the overhead jar. Okay, so the bank, it allows you to have a little excess money to pay for things in the business. Okay, let's say you don't have money to pay rent, and you're basically coming up to the first of the month and you don't have the money there. You're going to find that there's not going to be a whole lot of money in the bank to be able to cash flow those expenses. So a lot of that is going to be your own personal responsibility. If you're in that situation, make sure to consult your general manager, because you can't take money from the business to pay for those personal expenses until you've earned enough and you have enough in the bank to do so. Okay. So what happens here, let's say I use the rest of the money in my bank, I use a couple of these chips to buy leads. I still have a little bit left over here. I've already paid for my marketing. My College Pro cash flow overhead is broken even. What starts to happen is you'll start to collect these deposits. I'm going to bring my last job in here. So now again, we're assuming that we've already paid off the College Pro cash flow overhead. And we're assuming that we have enough money in the bank to pay for our cold callers. So then what happens when you book a job after that point is you're going to have this 10 to 15% deposit that you collect is going to go straight into the bank. Because what happens when you pay off your overhead with College Pro, the booking fee stops. So when you collect a deposit, it just goes straight in the bank. Now that money that's in the bank is going to be what you use to pay for your vehicle, to pay for your ladders, to pay for your cell phone and marketing and all those other overhead needs in the business. And that is basically how the financials work during the winter and spring of your College Pro franchise.